Hi, and welcome to this block flow class. So you will need a set of blocks, foam blocks, cork blocks, whatever you have will work. And we're gonna start in a supported child's pose. So you can place one block to the side, walking the knees out nice and wide, sitting hips back to heels, and then melting down. We're gonna rest the forehead to the block. So just choose whatever height you would like your block at and begin to melt the heart space down. The forehead and the neck feel supported. You can walk those fingertips out away from you if you like. We'll just take about 3 big deep breaths here. At our next inhale, let's start to draw ourselves forward to a hands and knees position. We can just place the block up in front of us, spreading those fingers wide, stacking shoulders over elbows, over wrists, and either tops of feet to mat space or tucking the toes, finding a little stretch. We're just gonna move through a couple of rounds of our cat-cow. As we inhale, drop our bellies, lengthen up through the front of the body. Maybe lift the chin, finding length through the front of the throat. And exhaling, we're gonna tuck that tailbone, pushing into the palms of the hands as we round through the spine, one vertebrae at a time. Chin comes into chest. Inhale, opening front body. Exhale, opening back body. And one more here. Back through a neutral tabletop position. We're going to find a puppy dog pose with option, or melting heart pose with option of the blocks. So your choice. So without blocks, we're gonna leave our hips high, walking hands forward, melting ourselves down. If that feels okay for you, we can take it a little further with the blocks. And we're going to rest the forearms to the blocks. So you want them just about shoulder width. You want to feel nice and secure so we're not wiggling away. Forearms to the blocks. And then begin to melt the heart space down. You can take the inside edge of the forearms if we want a little bit more. Just relaxing the wrists. We'll just take 3 breaths here. If you're really mobile through your shoulders, make sure you're engaged through the shoulder blades here instead of dropping too deep through. You don't want to leave those shoulders vulnerable. Go ahead, and to come out, we're going to start to lead with the back of the head, walking the hands in a little closer so the palms can find the blocks. And then pushing ourselves back upright, shift those blocks out of the way. Hands come to mat space, tuck our toes. Hips are gonna head up and back as we find our downward facing dog. Just pedaling out through the heels here. And stepping the big toes together, soften through the knees, shift the gaze forward. And tiptoe, step, or hop up to the top of your mat, find your fold. You can use a block here just to lift the floor up a little bit. So we drop chin to chest. Good, and then inhale, let's press heels into the mat space as we slowly begin to round all the way up. Reach those fingertips up overhead. Exhale, hands come in through heart center and breathe. So I feel like props often get a bad rap. So I've been in classes where they suggest props are only used if you can't really do the full expression of the shape, but what I've learned over 20 plus years of doing yoga is that props can actually help me enhance my practice. They can just lift the floor up for those of us that have shorter limbs, maybe making some poses accessible that wouldn't otherwise be with shorter limbs or different body shapes, and also can help us sometimes sink a little bit deeper into some poses by having that support. So don't think that props are only used for beginners or if you can't get into the shape, but allow yourself to explore how they can enhance your practice. So we're gonna bring the blocks right up to the top edge of our mat, actually on either side of the front edge. And inhale, we're gonna reach. Exhale, we're gonna fold. Halfway lift and fold. Reaching for those blocks, we're gonna take a big step back with the right leg. Lowering the knee to the mat space, we're gonna find our lunge position. So using those blocks at your sides, you can choose which height to use them at. And here we're really gonna think about squaring the hips to the front edge of our space, keeping the shoulders down and back, and then sinking the hips down a little further. So this is a really nice supported shape to get into our hip flexor in the front of that right hip. Because our hip flexors are also a spinal flexor. So if we're rounded forward, we're not going to get the same stretch as if we're upright and supported. Breathing here. And then taking our blocks with us as we shift the weight back, peel that left foot. We're going to find our half split pose. So again, we can use those blocks just to lift the floor up. Hips stay square, chest feels tall. And breathing. So I find in my body, I can actually get a more intense stretch here using the blocks than I can when fingertips are to the ground, just because they're changing where the sensation is felt in the body. Slowly shifting that weight forward. Leaving our blocks there, we're going to step ourselves back, find our down dog or 4-point kneeling. Breathing. Stepping the big toes together, soft through the knees, gazes forward, tiptoeing or stepping up to the top of the mat. Find our fold, maybe use those blocks, one or both. Inhale, halfway lift, nice flat back. Exhale, fold. And then inhale, let's root to rise. Reach those fingertips. Hands come down through heart center. Inhale, we're gonna reach. Exhale, we're gonna fold. Halfway lift. And fold. Big step back with the left this time. Lower that knee. Again, choose the height of the blocks. That right knee is stacked right over the ankle, shoulders down and back, hips are square, and then maybe sinking down a little deeper. And if we want to come a little more upright, you can even walk those blocks in a little bit closer, starting to get more opening in the front of that left hip. Breathing here. Good, and then slowly beginning to press those hips back. Peel that right foot. And we can take those blocks with us, choosing what height you'd like to use them at. Back forward into our lunge. Option this time if you want to use your blocks in your down dog, just to change the sensation a little bit. So we can start with them at the lowest setting, palms spread wide. Tuck the toes on the left, step it back. Feel that little bit different sensation here. So if the hands are lifted a little bit, can often help us to find a little more straightening through the legs or drop those heels down a little bit further. Maybe you're feeling the sensation a little different in the body. And let's step the big toes together. Soften through the knees, gazes forward. Making our way up to our fold. Halfway lift. And fold. Inhale, we're gonna rise. Reach. Exhale, we're gonna fold. Halfway lift and fold. Big step back with the right. Lower the knee, find that high lunge. One breath. Shift those hips back, take those blocks with you. One breath. Good, back forward into our lunge. We're going to reach the left hand to the left knee or left hip. Right hand is supported into that block as we move into a gentle twist here. Optional to reach those left fingertips up overhead. So if we're feeling like we're hiking through that shoulder a little, we can turn that block a little lower height. Slowly unraveling. We're gonna get ready to transition to our down dog. So optional if you wanted to try the blocks maybe a little bit higher as we tuck the toes on the right, step it back. Find your down dog with your blocks. Stepping the big toes together, soft through the knees, gazes forward. Find your fold. Halfway lift and fold. Inhale to rise. And exhale to fold. Halfway lift and fold. Weight into the right leg, big step back with the left. Lower that knee. Nice and supported here. One breath. And then shift those hips back, peel that right foot. Take the blocks with you, half split, one breath. Shifting back into the lunge. We're gonna potentially shift that block under the left hand a little lower. Right hand to right knee, right hip, or lifting. And our revolved low lunge. Good, unraveling here, we'll get ready to step it back to our down dog. So choosing if you want to use those blocks. Step it back, find a couple breaths. And step the big toes together, soften through the knees, gazes forward. Step it up to your fold. Halfway lift and fold. Inhale to rise. And exhale, let's bring the hands down through heart center. Take a breath. Good, so we're just gonna need one block here for this next part of our sequence. So you can set one off to the side. Taking one with you as we step out wide on our mat. Toes are parallel to our feet are parallel to each other and to the short edge of the mat. We're gonna find a straddle forward fold. So soften through the knees, hinge at the hips, arrive in our fold. Our block is there to lift the floor up. So choosing whatever height you want it at. Good, inhale, we're gonna lift up to a nice flat back position, moving into a twist here. So again, choosing the block at any height, we're gonna leave the left hand on the block. Inhale, right hand to right hip, or reaching those fingertips up overhead. Let's release that right hand to the mat, left hand to left hip, or reaching. Breathing here. And let's find one more each side. Inhale as we twist to the right. Exhale, release. Inhale, twist to the left. Exhale, release. Good, arrive back in that fold, 2 big breaths. Inhale, lift up through a nice flat back. Let's soften through the knees. We're gonna stand up and we're gonna bring our block with us. The right toes are gonna turn towards the front edge of your mat. Taking that block into the right hand, sinking into the front knee, the right knee, finding our warrior two. So we open ourselves to the side. Good. From here, we're going to move into our side angle. So option to take a variation with the forearm to the shin, or we can take the block to the inside of that right ankle, support the fingertips, and then reaching the left fingertips either up towards the sky or angling overhead. Working to stay nice and open through the chest. Breathe here. Bringing that left arm back to shoulder height. Use our core, draw ourselves up. Left hand down left leg. Let's reach that block up overhead. Reverse our warrior. And we're just going to find a little flow here back and forth. So back through warrior two. Find that supported side angle. Always optional to take the variation with the forearm to the leg. And then opening up, reverse our warrior. One more of each. Good, back through warrior two. We're gonna start to straighten through that front leg, heel toe that left foot in just a little. Hips head off to the left, reach forward with the right. We're gonna find our supported triangle shape. So again, that block can either be to the inside of that leg or the outside, but remembering we wanna be nice and open in our triangle position. And also optional to choose a variation with the hand resting to the leg here as well. Take 2 big breaths. And gazing down to that right foot, soften through the knee, using the core back up through warrior two. We're gonna pivot the feet parallel and then turn those left toes out, taking the block into the left hand. Warrior two shape. Beginning to move into that side angle. So forearm to the thigh or block to the inside of the ankle. Right fingertips up towards the sky or angled up overhead. Breathing. And bringing that left hand back to shoulder height. We're going to use our core drawing us back up. Right hand to the leg. Left hand and block up overhead. Good, and let's flow through this a couple of times. One more each direction. And back into that warrior two shape. We're gonna set up for our triangle. Straightening through the left leg, heel toe that right foot in. We're gonna reach that block out away from us, bring it to the inside of the ankle, and then reach those right fingertips up overhead. If you're wondering if you have an open position in your triangle, we can always bring that right hand to the hip or even small of the back, seeing if the hips are open, chest is open, and then reach those fingertips. Breathing here. Gazing down to that left foot, soften through the knee, coming back up through warrior two. Let's pivot the feet parallel. Gently soften in the knees, head into our straddle fold. 2 breaths. Good, and then we're gonna shift our block back right between the legs. So you can choose how high you want it here. We're gonna use it for a supported yogi squat position. So come up through a nice flat back position, and we're going to start to heel toe those feet in just a little wider than hip width with the toes turned out, and then gently begin to sink the hips down. So we lift through the chest. We're going to arrive to that block, and if it's feeling wobbly, we can always stack blocks, making a little stool, or you could even take this position to a little bit higher surface. And the arms can relax onto the legs, nice and open through the chest. We're gonna be here for 5 breaths. So even if you can get into your yogi squat without your blocks, I encourage you to try this variation because we just will feel the sensation a little bit different in the body. Maybe we can access somewhere that we're not getting in our unsupported yogi squat. Take these blocks out of the way, slowly lowering ourselves down to the mat. Stretch the legs out long, give everything a little bit of a roll, a little bit of a shake. We're gonna set up for our staff pose. So stretching the legs out in front of us, and then just gently kind of scooching back one hip at a time. Is scooch a word? I'm not sure. It is today. Rooting through the sits bones, growing up tall through the spine. We can start to flex the feet back towards us, maybe even lifting the heels up off the mat as we think about pressing the backs of the knees into the mat space. Shoulders rolled down and back. And then let's press into the blocks. You can choose which height you want the mat. So you feel really supported and open through the spine, through the chest. We'll take 2 breaths here. Gently soften and relax. We are going to make our way down into a supported fish position. So we can use one of the blocks that's going to be underneath of the shoulder blades or the upper part of the back. Optional if you want to use your second block as a little cushion for the head. And if you're really open through the chest, you may even choose to have the blocks at a little bit higher height here. So we're gonna lay back over the block. Just take a moment to kind of make sure it's where you want it to be. And then releasing the arms down alongside the body. So the legs can stay bent with the soles of the feet on the mat, which is kind of a little bit more supported position for our low back. Or if it feels okay, you can stretch the legs out long here. Breathing. And even though we have that block underneath of our back or maybe under the shoulder blades, we still want to make sure that the shoulder blades are pulling down and back. So we're as open as we can be through the front body, through the chest. Let's find 3 more breaths here. And to come out of this shape, let's slide those heels up the mat if they're not there already, and just slowly roll off the blocks to one side. And we can shift those blocks out of the way so we can come right back onto our back, keeping one or both blocks handy. So we've set up for a supported bridge shape. So feet are gonna rest right underneath of the knees, arms can run alongside the body, shoulders pulling down and back. Let's press into the feet, press into the hands, lift those hips, just high enough that we can slide a block underneath of there. So I always encourage, especially if the supported shapes with blocks are new, to find a wide surface area. So if one block isn't enough, instead of turning the block sideways, just slide another block under there. Just a little bit more stable position. But if you're feeling enough with one, just stay there. Nice big deep breaths in and out. A couple options here in our supported bridge. As long as the low back feels supported, you may want to explore stretching the legs out a little bit longer, finding a bit of opening through the front of the hip flexors here. Just avoid that position if you feel any pinching sensation in the low back. Another option is to walk the feet a little bit wider. Let the knees fall in towards one another. And I sometimes like to just place another block between my knees here so it feels nice and supported. Let's take about 5 breaths here in whatever variation of supported bridge you found yourself in. It's a really nice release for the low back. Give ourselves permission to just rest fully into the support. And slowly walk those feet back in if they're wide. Take the block out from between the knees if you've added that in. I'm going to press into the floor as we lift the hips high enough to slide those blocks out of the way. Slowly release the hips back to the mat. Just take a breath here. And then gently begin to allow yourself to settle into your final resting position. Traditional Shavasana or any other position that feels supported for you. And I'm going to leave you here today, encouraging you to stay for 10 or 15 full cycles of breath. Just allowing yourself to absorb all of the amazing benefits of your practice today. Thank you so much for joining me. Namaste.